What is the most significant way to express yourself? Common mediums such as painting or fashion are the most accessible and the most used. However, a painting can be easily lost or stolen, and any outfit that a person wears will eventually be forgotten. However, tattoos will remain with the person for the rest of their life. Whatever a tattoo represents will stay with them for their entire existence. My name is Brian Baker. I'm a 3-year apprentice, and today I will demonstrate the fundamentals of creating a tattoo so that you will be equipped to create art that lasts a lifetime. In this, we will cover the origins of tattooing, how it works, process and training, and protecting the client. Tattooing has been an enormous part of human culture for over 5 centuries. Nearly every culture in history has incorporated tattooing in some way, the most famous of which are native tribes, both American native tribes and Hawaiian native tribes. As described by Sarah Diamond in her 2023 article titled "The Word Tattoo," the name originates from the Samoan word tatau, which comes from the tapping sound of the tools used during the process. In their culture, tattoos were used to signify a member's history in some ways, such as rank, status, or honor. In order for the ink to stay within the skin, the ink must penetrate through the first layer of the skin called the epidermis and enter the second layer called the dermis. In Samoan times, they did this by tapping a sharpened serrated tool, usually made from bone, attached to a stick. Today this is done with tiny hollow needles. The needles are bunched together in different amounts called the needle count. This affects the thickness of the lines created. When dipped, the tattoo ink is held within the hollow needles, and when the needle penetrates the skin and comes out, it leaves behind ink. Many repetitions of this process allows a tattoo artist to create lines and shading. Because tattoo lines are essentially a bunch of dots, being able to create smooth tattoos is difficult and requires a lot of practice. When tattooing, you must balance your voltage, which is the speed at which the machine is operating, as well as your hand speed. High voltage means you increase your hand speed, and low voltage means that you decrease your hand speed. Additionally, in order to control the machine, you have to have a solid but mobile grip on the machine. Due to the weight of coil machines, a good grip and lots of hours is extremely important. Most tattoo artists hold their machine like this. They have their index finger resting on the top part to control the, horizontal movement, and then they have their middle finger under the tube, which allows them to, it's more support for the weight of the back of the machine. When you draw on paper, it is fairly easy to draw a decent straight line. This is because the friction of the paper keeps the tip from shaking or moving slightly. This isn't the case with tattoos, however. And that is why it is most important to have good points of contact. Typically, tattoo artists recommend 3. They use their left arm, or the arm that they're not tattooing with, to rest on the person to stabilize their body. They then rest their elbow on a table that's close to where they're working, and then they rest their arm or their hand where they're working. One of the most difficult factors to master is the needle depth. Having your needle too shallow will cause the ink not to stay in the skin, which makes the tattoo fade or come out looking unfinished. But having your needle too deep is very painful to the client, and it will cause blowouts. Blowouts are when the ink is deposited into the skin. It's deposited too deeply into the skin and goes past the second layer of skin into the layer of fat. This causes the tattoo ink to spread beyond the lines of the tattoo. Once you get the correct depth down, you have to maintain this depth throughout the whole tattoo, which can be difficult, especially considering the weight of the tattoo machine and the unevenness of the human body. The correct needle depth on average is between 1 to 2 millimeters beneath the surface of the skin. This is the topmost layer of the second layer of skin, the dermis, and results in the most long-lasting and vivid tattoos. In order to keep the depth of the needle consistent, tattoo artists typically dedicate a finger, usually the pinky, as a depth gauge. This is why having a consistent grip is extremely important. The most important aspect of tattooing to be knowledgeable about is bloodborne pathogens. Bloodborne pathogens are defined by the CDC as microorganisms such as viruses or bacteria that are carried in blood and can cause people disease. Because many diseases carried in the bloodstream are lifelong and life-threatening, a tattoo artist must be extremely careful when handling and disposing of their equipment. The most notable pathogens are HIV, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. Proper care during and after the tattoo process consists of never reusing needles, gloves, or anything else that comes in contact with the client, securing and covering any surface that the client or equipment touches at any point during the process, and never allowing anything that may have been touched by another person to come into contact with the tattoo during the tattooing process or during the healing process. So the process of creating art through tattooing requires a lot of fundamental work, knowledge, and responsibility. Throughout history, tattoos have been and remain to be integral to human culture. As the efficiency of tattooing has evolved, so have the techniques and processes. There is a large amount of precision tattooing, and this requires a large amount of training. Though in order to be a proper tattoo artist, you must be knowledgeable about protecting the patient from bloodborne pathogens. Now, with the proper training and enough time, you will be able to create art that sticks with people for the rest of their lives.